maybe I'll start off on a hopeful note. I'm going to flip my camera around. Um, and if you can see some part of my screen, that is 100 odd kids from the slums of Mumbai learning on a Zoom meeting from a teacher who's using the floor of their home as a chalkboard. So just thought I'll start on something a little bit hopeful. Um, and so just to give, for those of you who aren't very familiar, India is an enormous country, and just to put numbers in perspective, there's about 150 million kids in our school system, which are government school kids and are underserved, right? So really, really low income kids. The other thing that's happened is, over time, given that the private sector has now, I think we have amongst the most diverse private sectors in education, where we have private schools that teach from price points that are as low as $100 a year, all the way up to high-end private schools. So what's actually happened in the public school system is that only the most underserved are in those schools, and only the most vulnerable kids are in the government schools. What's happened in India is, I think, a combination of no planning whatsoever, right? And a very sudden move to shut the school system. So I will give you an example of, we manage about kids in about 50,000, 60,000 kids in high school classrooms, science and math classrooms in government schools each year. And we had 0 days notice and 0 minutes to plan for the transition. So the most that we were able to do was actually, the moment Mr. Modi announced at 8 p.m., go to Amazon and start ordering, Wacom tablets and, other things which we could possibly use to teach kids. A funny story I was telling Vikas was that of all the tablets I ordered, the only ones that arrived were the ones at my house. So for a few weeks, I was teaching in 3 languages, different kids. And I think this lack of preparedness, and I think there's some friends of mine from the sector, center, etc., on this call, as a consequence of which, I would say the last about 2 or 3 weeks, it's just been a mad, crazy scramble. Both from the government end, as well as from the civic society. And I think what's been quite astounding and amazing is how quickly people have come together. So I'd like to talk a little bit about, before I talk about all the problems, a few things that have happened through, through rapid and good old Indian jugaad, as we call it, or rapid innovation. Within the past 3 weeks, there's been a coalescing of almost all the open Hindi content that there is. Hindi is sort of the most commonly spoken language in the government schools in India. So we've been able to collate, for instance, these content, which is grade 9 through 12, as well as the content of several other good organizations like the Central Square Foundation, etc. And we've managed to actually pull together open learning resources, both in terms of video resources, worksheets, workbooks, PDF resources, for almost everything from grade kindergarten to, not kindergarten, right, it's grade 1 to 12. An important point that was mentioned by many others was, how do you even get this to the kids? At which I think what we're finding right now is, in high school, we're able to get it to about 40% of the students, because the kids and the parents are so aware of the importance of this time to learn that they're finding ways to get their hands on smartphones or intermittent internet connections. I think what's helping in India is the fact that data is really cheap, and mobile phone connectivity is actually pretty widespread. So we're seeing only about a 40-50% drop-off rate when we try and get kids to start learning online in some way, which of course is synchronous and asynchronous. So downloading PDFs, I think a large percentage of the kids are being able to do. Doing take-home tests where they're taking pictures and sending them back to us, I would say about 30% of the kids are being able to do. We started doing live streaming classes on YouTube and TikTok recently. We're seeing about 25-30% attendance. So the numbers are not, substantive in terms of covering all the kids, but I think much higher than we thought they would be. And every day, I think we're finding ways in which to collaborate. And I think the government, because they didn't prepare at all, is, I think, for the first time in my last decade of working with them, actually open to listening to smaller organizations, more innovative organizations, and actually moving, which I think is very, is heartening. so I do think that all of that is great. I think the problems obviously are very extreme and very worrying. Uh, the first is that, I think, again, to put numbers in context, we lose about half of our kids who enter grade 1 by the time they get to grade 11, right? So we more than half of our students actually drop out of the schools. And if you look at that dropout data a little bit more carefully, a majority of that is girls. Um, what has happened, I think, even in the last 3 or 4 weeks, is and I think, right, it's well over half, right? So the thing that's happened over the past few weeks is that, that the vulnerability of especially girl students who are entering high school and the likelihood of them dropping out has gone up dramatically, right? And we have several students who are right now, stuck at home, don't have food, are trying to learn on WhatsApp, but are also requesting us to find ways to get them, food and shelter and water. So, the plight of vulnerable children, I think, is something which will come more and more to the fore as this crisis deepens. And while on one end, I think we are seeing tremendous grit from parents, students, teachers, as well as the government in some ways to try and solve this in the way that they can. I just think a lot of what has happened in India is a massive tragedy, and the lack of planning and preparedness is appalling. And I think a few submissions to this, I think, which would have helped, and I heard them mentioned earlier, which is India has had an online teacher training portal called Diksha now for over 5 years. Several organizations have tried to contribute to it. It is a terrible platform, like it barely works online. And despite a lot of push and effort from many people, I think several people on this call, the lack of effort on trying to make that work in the years prior is now going to show. Whereas now, I think overnight somehow, every state government seems to have launched an online learning program with no content or badly organized content and a teacher training program. So I think India's lack of preparedness for this is going to start showing very, very fast. And I completely agree with the speakers before me that I think if more effort had been done on continuous teacher training, that could have been the single biggest thing that actually helped. And also the other was training teachers to organize, and training teachers to organize online is again something that we are finding even within our own organization. We were somewhat underprepared. And within the government school teachers also, that turned out to be a massive gap, right? Which is, it takes a certain degree of skill and effort to organize communities, especially underserved communities online, which I think we were terribly underprepared for. And and the last thing I really wanted to say, because I'm conscious of everyone's time, is that for those who are policymakers here, and especially those who are in a position to drive policy in India, I think it's really, really important that not now, perhaps, but following on from this crisis, I think it's really important we unite our voices and make a very, very loud appeal to government, especially in developing countries and underserved regions, that this is the new normal. And if we do not do things to prepare for this better, this tragedy, which I can assure you will be a terrible, terrible tragedy in India in terms of kids falling out of school and and other problems, will just keep repeating itself and compounding itself. Yeah, that's all I had.
If there was one intervention, Akshay, for India, which is just humongous, like you said, the numbers were just like staggering. If there was one intervention, if you were the human resources minister in India, what would that one thing be in this current crisis that you do?
Teacher training and preparedness.
But that is a long tail. But what about to overcome the current challenge that you have?
I think immediately make data plans free. If anyone's in a government school, it's only 100 rupees right now, and we are paying for that, and I'm sure many other non-profits are paying for it. It's 100 rupees, and Jio's making enough money, right? So if we could just make data free during the crisis, for at least for kids who are in government schools and can prove it, it'll help enormously, because I think Android phone penetration is actually pretty good.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Sorry, because one point I wanted to ask, actually, and that has been brought up by David, but also by Christian Williams on the chat, is this emotional connection, the need for the emotional connection. And I would like other speakers to talk about it a little bit. How can we use technology? One of the kids, the one in 3rd grade, is having physical education through the Zoom class. So they are not using technology only to push knowledge, but also to try to socialize and do other type of connection. And so they did like a gym class on Zoom with the kids the other day, and he had a lot of fun. So I would like to see if there are other examples of trying to change the usage of technology, and not just to push knowledge, but to use it for other means of social connection and emotional connection.
Yeah. So, fantastic question. I can only share what's working well for us. So let me focus on that. So I think one is sort of sharing personal lives. I think, there's a lot of empathy, and I think I work with slightly older kids, right? So you're showing them my home, cooking in front of them, like, playing with, doing play. Play is, I think, really, really important. A lot of kids are under a lot of stress. So I think and this would be what's worked really well for us is I open the first 15 minutes of every class with play, right? Something funny, something about my own life, talking about things that I'm struggling with. I gave myself a haircut, it's terrible. These things really, really help. Especially for teachers who are talking to kids through the internet, either through video or content. The other is, I think, making the effort to reach out to individual students, even if you can do it once in 15 days, is incredibly important. I think the speaker before me mentioned, it's really important to have a 30:1 if possible, but if not, as close as you can get, ratio of sort of teaching facilitators to students. And their job changes, right? Their job is not assigning homework. Their job is just making sure these kids are well, that you're talking to them, you're talking to their parents, you're understanding what they're doing to create a safe space for learning. So I think, being funny, sharing your own life, and doing, parental counseling has worked well for us. It's actually one of my biggest questions. So I'd love to sort of follow the group afterwards and see what else we can do while being virtual.
Thank you so much. I'm now going to move